All right, here's your Alabama forecast discussion. It is Wednesday the 10th. We'll be forecasting through the weekend and into next week. Lots to get to. So let's get to it. Start with our weather headlines for the state. The hot and humid days continue. No surprise there as we head towards the middle of June. This is certainly a time of year when summer will hit pretty abruptly, and that cool air from a couple of weeks ago is gone. We look pretty dry through at least the first half of the weekend, and with that, the heat levels continue in the 90s. Heat index values pretty high as well. Rain returns next week, and could we see some tropical development in the southwest Gulf? We will talk about that. Starting with temperatures, let's look at Thursday's highs across the state, and it's pretty clear we'll be in that range where 90s possible all across the state each day. Some areas will be above that, some maybe just below. And this will continue through Friday as well as Saturday. These are Friday highs. And you can see southeast Alabama, pushing the envelope of mid-90s there. And keep in mind, each afternoon that we hit low to mid-90s, it'll feel like upper 90s, perhaps triple-digit readings. We've already seen that this week, so certainly wouldn't surprise me one bit. There's through Saturday, the 13th. And then we'll see a bit of a pivot in our pattern. So let's go to the upper air look here. This is Sunday afternoon. So it's a long wave trough. You got an upper low that's near the Hudson Bay region. And what's going to accompany this is a surface front that'll be basically out ahead of, just south of this troughing that we see. And that'll be our rain chance. So into Monday we go. You'll see the trough dip down to the south. And this time of year, the trough north to south movement is usually fairly limited, but whenever we get something like this where it starts to encroach on the Ohio Valley, south of the Great Lakes region, it can often mean rain for us. So this is Monday afternoon, 4 o'clock. Again, the trough won't ever reach the southeast, but the front that will be accompanying this at the surface is what's going to bring us rain. This is by Tuesday. This is the furthest south this trough will get. And this will probably coincide with some of our highest rain chances or rain coverage of the week and of the forecast period here. Some cooler air for areas off to the north that have been very warm here of late. And then by Tuesday into Wednesday, the trough starts to flatten out, and we resume essentially the pattern that we had been in. At least that would be in theory for the end of the week. We're starting to get that 7-day period out. So let's take a look at this from a perspective of modeling. This is Sunday afternoon. Again, when our rain chances start to increase. And you're going to notice, again, this is a low-resolution global modeling, but it gives kind of a rough idea of what we'll be looking like coverage-wise. So Sunday, scattered afternoon, evening thunderstorms. Monday, that coverage starts to go up. Remember, Monday is the day where we start to see that trough extend to the south and become elongated. And with that, we got plenty of rich tropical air in place. So it's not going to take much to tap into that and get decent rain coverage out of this. So I think Monday afternoon into the evening, we'll start to see, pretty good from the Tennessee Valley down to the Gulf Coast, scattered showers and thunderstorms. Not an all-day rain, but a pretty all-encompassing one at that. We'll go into Tuesday now. And this is where models kind of differ in the timing and the overall trajectory of this front. So this is Tuesday afternoon, some of the heaviest rain north of I-20, and we will gradually see that sagging to the south. So this particular model is showing the rain linger through Tuesday and even into Wednesday. It's tough to, get a prognosis of these frontal movements. This time of year, sometimes they stall, and in which case we could see rain through Wednesday. In other instances, they may have enough momentum and they'll drift all the way down to the Gulf Coast. Either way, Monday, Tuesday look pretty wet. Wednesday's the kind of questionable day. Does the rain shift south and clear of Alabama, or does it linger at least for the first half of the day? That'll be yet to be seen. We'll work that out as we get closer. So this is the NDFD. This basically looks at probability or rain coverage over an area for each day. You can see Sundays is the furthest north. And that's, that makes sense as that front is just descending, that trough just descending. Southern half of the state, probably the least coverage. But then you see Monday, you see that bullseye of, 75 to 100%. And basically don't take too much percentage away from this. You look at those darker colors, and that usually, means we're going to see a good concentration of rain there. By Tuesday, that focal point shifts a little bit further to the south. And then by Wednesday, again, the uncertainty here. Whole state in some sort of probability, but the highest will be down in southeast Alabama, the Wiregrass stretching all the way over to Mobile. And so as we move forward, we may see this map, and we will see this map likely adjusting accordingly with this. But, this is the Weather Prediction Center. They basically give out this product, each and every day. And what it looks like is an average over the next 7 days. Now, obviously, rain chances are fairly sparse in the short term. But this is a good indicator that this is a pretty big rain producer. Now, keeping in mind the fact that we've got a lot of tropical air, precipitable water, we call it. That's water available in the atmosphere to fall as rain. You get a lifting mechanism that can tap into that, and you can easily get a lot of rain out of this. Now, will these numbers be spot on? Absolutely not. We will see some areas in the higher end of this range, and others, closer to maybe just an inch. Coverage is never as all-encompassing as this suggests. But what I take away from this is we could see some pretty decent rains out of this. And we've had some heavy rain here recently all across the state. It's really helped the drought situation. But in an event like this, where the ground is certainly still wet from previous rains, flooding will have to be watched as a possible issue. We're in tropical season. We have our first outlook or probability of development here over the next 7 days, watching an area of low pressure that will move over the Bay of Campeche, over the southwest Gulf. And this will give the potential for some rain, and this might even end up getting a name. So before we even go to modeling, I'll tell you, this is not going to impact the Gulf Coast. So you see stuff in the Gulf and or in the proximity of the Gulf, and a lot of people get concerned about that. So let's go to some modeling now. This is a Thursday afternoon, broad area of low pressure here coming off the Yucatan, and as this drifts into the southwest Gulf, it looks to get a little bit more organized. That's very typical of low pressure centers. So they move over water, and the environment, warm sea surface temperatures in this part of the Gulf, it will certainly favor a strengthening of this center low. But we're also going to keep note of a feature you're going to see drifting off the Florida Peninsula here into early next week, and really even over the weekend. So as this all works together, it's very fascinating. So as this trough dips to the south, as this front dips to the south, it's going to force that high pressure to shift into the Gulf. And in doing so, it's going to deflect or steer this tropical low or this low further to the west. This is going to deflect it away from anywhere along the Gulf Coast, which is good news. But everything is all about steering currents. And the trajectory of this particular low would take this into the Mexican coast by sometime late weekend and early next week. And you can see that high solidifying there by Sunday right over the central Gulf. So again, no impacts expected here closer to the home front. This is a look at the probability of tropical depression winds. So basically this is looking at what are the odds that we have winds that are tropical depression force? And it's anywhere between 60 and 70% at its highest, obviously diminishing as we get closer to early next week. But will this get a name? Potentially. Is it going to be impactful? Not to us. No. Big rainmaker for parts of Mexico. So something to watch just for tropical fans who are, following the season as it is. They're predicting a slightly below average season if you put a whole lot of stock into that. So that's a look at your forecast discussion that takes us through the middle of next week. We'll have an update as necessary. Hopefully you guys are having a good summer to this point. We're coming up on the solstice here, just over 10 days away. So we'll update you as needed. Have a great day. Great rest of your week.